welcome back to our channel. This 1-cent coin shocked collectors, find out why. Like and subscribe for amazing coin facts and hidden treasures. In 1968, the United States stood at the edge of transformation. The echoes of war, social unrest, and cultural upheaval reverberated through every corner of the nation. Amidst this backdrop, the U.S. Mint continued its daily work, minting billions of coins for an economy in flux. Among them was the humble 1-cent coin, the Lincoln penny, struck as it had been for decades with the enduring profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the stately Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Nothing, on the surface, seemed out of the ordinary. Yet in that unassuming year, something unusual slipped through the cracks, quiet, subtle, and unnoticed for a time, until the right eyes saw what others had overlooked. The year 1968 marked an important shift in minting logistics. After the removal of mint marks in 1965, the U.S. Mint reinstated them in 1968. For the first time since the suspension, coins began to once again carry the small identifying letters of their mint origin. Pennies from Philadelphia were now marked with no mint mark, while those from Denver and San Francisco bore a small D or S. In particular, the San Francisco Mint resumed proof coin production that year, while also handling regular business strikes. Mistakes, however rare, often arise during such transitions. The Lincoln penny had long been a staple of American commerce. Its design, unchanged since 1959, was familiar to millions. Most who handled it in 1968 never looked twice. But something happened during the striking process that year. A subtle mistake, born in the pairing of mismatched dies or the misalignment of a press, created a variation unlike any other that decade. A coin was struck with an error not immediately visible to the casual eye, but unmistakable to someone who knew where to look. Years later, that coin surfaced in the collection of an elderly man named Grant, who had started collecting coins during the Great Depression. His passion had carried into old age, and he spent his twilight years cataloging coins acquired from pocket change, estate sales, and local auctions. It was a quiet routine, orderly, repetitive, but deeply meaningful to him. He was flipping through a folder of 1960s Lincoln cents when he noticed something peculiar. The 1968 penny he held looked different, but not in any dramatic way. The coloring was slightly more coppery than others in the folder. The fields, those flat surfaces around Lincoln's profile, seemed unusually smooth, but what really caught Grant's eye was the mint mark. Or rather, its absence. He held in his hand what appeared to be a 1968 S penny without the S mint mark. That wasn't supposed to exist. That he set the coin aside and examined it with his magnifying lens. The detail was sharp, much sharper than business strike coins from that era. The coin had the mirror-like fields and frosted devices typical of a proof strike, but proof coins were only produced in San Francisco in 1968 and always bore the S mint mark. This coin had none. The realization hit him slowly. He wasn't looking at an ordinary penny. He was looking at a proof coin without its mint mark, something that, by every official standard, should not have left the mint. Verification became his next priority. He sent the coin for grading, enclosing a note explaining his suspicions. Weeks passed. And then the confirmation arrived. The label read, 1968 S Lincoln cent, proof, no mint mark, mint error. What Grant had found was one of the rarest known Lincoln cent errors, a 1968 proof penny, struck in San Francisco, missing its signature, S. This type of error was more than just a mechanical slip. It suggested the wrong die, one without a mint mark, had been used on a proof press in San Francisco, where all proof coins were required to bear the S. The conditions that led to this mistake were fleeting. A single die pair might have been installed incorrectly, struck a small batch of coins, and then been corrected before the error was widely noticed. But a few coins, perhaps only a handful, escaped detection. As word of the error spread, numismatists began searching their collections. A few additional examples turned up, each sparking excitement. Still, they were exceedingly rare. Most had been mishandled over the years, bearing scratches or wear that reduced their appeal. Grant's coin remained one of the finest known specimens, frosty, sharp, and untouched by circulation, collectors began to speculate. How many could there be? 10? 5? Fewer? The U.S. Mint, silent as always, offered no clarification. But the silence only fueled the mystery. The 1968 no-S proof cent became a legend in its own time, a ghost coin, whispered about in collector circles, frequently imitated by fakes, and fiercely protected when the real thing surfaced. Auction houses began to list verified specimens with increasing frequency, and their prices soared with each new sale. One in lesser condition sold for $17,000. Another, lightly scratched but still clearly a no-S proof, went for over $24,000. Then came the milestone. A gem-quality example crossed the auction block at a major event and sold for an astonishing $54,000. The room fell into silence as the final gavel struck. The error wasn't just technical, it was symbolic. It represented a collision of precision and imperfection, a moment when machines slipped, and history was accidentally rewritten. The 1968 no-S proof penny wasn't a dramatic misstrike or a blank planchet, it was an invisible error, a silent omission that changed everything. For collectors, it was proof that vigilance and knowledge could uncover treasures hidden in plain sight. Over the years, values have continued to climb. Grant, now long retired from collecting, passed his coin to his grandson, who shares his fascination with numismatics. The coin, now permanently encapsulated in a top-tier grading slab, rests in a climate-controlled case, guarded not only for its value but for its story. Offers continue to arrive, private collectors and institutions hoping to add it to their archives. The appraised range today sits between $65,000 and $135,000, depending on the timing of sale, provenance, and collector interest, but for Grant's family, the true value lies in the way a tiny, copper-colored coin, overlooked by nearly everyone, rose from obscurity to become one of the most coveted Lincoln cents in modern history. The 1968 no-S penny, born in error and carried by chance, now stands as a monument to mystery, rarity, and the patient eyes that know how to see what others miss. The bicentennial year of 1976 was a time of national pride and celebration in the United States. As the country commemorated 200 years of independence, the sense of history and tradition ran deep. From parades to patriotic events, the spirit of the nation was captured in every corner of American life. While quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins issued that year carried special bicentennial designs, the humble Lincoln cent remained steadfast in its original form, with Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Yet within this ordinary and unaltered design, an extraordinary mistake quietly emerged, a numismatic anomaly that would not come to light until years later. The U.S. Mint, operating at full capacity to meet the demands of a bustling economy, struck billions of 1-cent coins that year. Both business strikes and proof sets were produced in the mints at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Proof coins, crafted with meticulous precision and bearing the San Francisco mint mark, were particularly sought after by collectors. These mirrored finishes and frosted designs reflected the pinnacle of minting craftsmanship. Yet somehow, in the midst of this perfection, an oversight occurred that would turn a small number of these pennies into priceless treasures. The story of this error began with the dies used to strike the coins. Proof coins were intended to have the mint mark on the obverse, a tiny but crucial detail that distinguished them from regular strikes. But in 1976, a die without the mint mark was mistakenly used in the proof production process. This error went unnoticed as the coins were struck, inspected, and packaged into proof sets. By the time the mistake was identified, if it was ever officially acknowledged, several coins had already entered circulation or remained sealed in collector sets. Years later, a devoted collector named Eleanor discovered what others had overlooked. Eleanor was a retired teacher who had spent decades building her collection from modest beginnings. Her passion for coins was rooted in a love for history and the stories each piece could tell. She had purchased a 1976 proof set at a local estate sale, intrigued by its pristine condition. Upon bringing it home, she began her routine inspection, carefully removing each coin from its case to examine it under her magnifying glass. The Lincoln cent in the set caught her attention. The coin gleamed with the polished fields and frosted devices characteristic of a proof strike, but something was missing. The S mint mark, which should have been just to the right of Lincoln's profile, was nowhere to be found. Eleanor paused, her heart racing. She double-checked her reference materials, confirming that every proof penny from 1976 should have carried the S. Yet here was a proof-quality coin without it. Could this be a counterfeit? Or had she stumbled upon something far rarer? Eleanor reached out to a trusted numismatist for verification. After careful examination, the coin was authenticated as a genuine 1976 proof penny struck without the S mint mark. The error was extraordinary, an omission that should have been caught during production. This was no ordinary coin. It was a fluke, a rarity that had somehow slipped past the watchful eyes of the San Francisco Mint. Word spread quickly within the numismatic community. The 1976 no-S proof penny became the subject of intense interest. Specialists speculated about how many such coins might exist. Estimates ranged from a dozen to perhaps 20, though no one could say for certain. The rarity of the error, combined with its impeccable proof quality, made it a coveted prize among collectors. Each new discovery was met with excitement, but the total number of known examples remained minuscule. As interest grew, so did the coin's value. Early sales of authenticated specimens fetched modest sums, reflective of their emerging status in the market. But as the rarity became more widely understood, prices began to climb. One example in near-perfect condition sold at auction for $35,000, while another, slightly less pristine, fetched $28,000. Then came the groundbreaking sale that redefined the coin's market value. A flawless specimen, graded at the highest level, shattered expectations when it sold for $72,000. This single transaction cemented the 1976 no-S proof penny as a legend in its own right. For collectors like Eleanor, the coin's significance extended beyond its monetary worth. It was a tangible piece of history, a symbol of how even the most precise processes could yield unexpected results. The no-S proof penny became a conversation starter, a focal point of debates among numismatists about how such errors occurred and what they revealed about the minting process. Some speculated that the wrong die was mistakenly paired with proof planchets, while others suggested it might have been an intentional oversight by a mint worker, a theory impossible to prove. The 1976 no-S proof penny's scarcity ensured its continued appeal. Auction houses began listing the coin as a centerpiece of their premier events, drawing bids from across the globe. Collectors and investors alike recognized its unique position in the world of rare coins, and competition to own one intensified. Over the decades, the coin's value has risen steadily, driven by its rarity, condition, and the ever-growing interest of the numismatic community. Today, the 1976 no-S proof penny stands as one of the most sought-after Lincoln cents in American history. Only a handful of examples are known to exist, and each one carries with it the intrigue of an unsolved mystery. How did such a mistake happen? How many coins might still be hidden in forgotten collections? These questions remain unanswered, adding to the coin's allure. Eleanor's discovery, now passed down to her family, remains a treasured piece of their history. The coin is securely stored, its value appraised at an astonishing $55,000 to $125,000, depending on the market. Offers continue to arrive, but for Eleanor's family, the coin represents more than just a financial asset. It is a testament to the power of observation, the thrill of discovery, and the enduring magic of coins as storytellers of history. The 1976 no-S proof penny, born of error and celebrated for its rarity, has earned its place as an icon of American numismatics. In 1984, the United States stood at the crossroads of technological advancement and political transformation. Ronald Reagan's presidency was in full stride, computers were slowly entering homes, and the Cold War tension still loomed over daily life. Yet in the background of these grand narratives, the U.S. Mint continued its quiet, relentless task, producing billions of coins to feed a growing economy. Among these, the Lincoln cent was a constant presence. Its copper-plated exterior and familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln had long served as a reassuring symbol of American continuity. But in that very year, tucked deep within the endless stream of pennies, a mistake occurred, one so subtle, so elusive, that it would take the right eyes and a rare moment of clarity to uncover its secret. The 1984 Lincoln cent, at first glance, was no different from its billions of counterparts. Struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, it bore either no mint mark or the small d indicating Denver origin. Its obverse still carried the solemn image of Lincoln, while the reverse depicted the Lincoln Memorial, complete with its precise columns and careful inscriptions. Yet for reasons still debated among experts, a small group of these coins emerged with a strange, almost imperceptible deviation. A flaw in the die. A slight duplication. A ripple in the design that only became visible under close scrutiny. A man named Harold, a retired postmaster and amateur numismatist, stumbled upon this deviation in the most unexpected way. He had always collected coins casually, more out of curiosity than obsession. One rainy afternoon, while sorting through a coffee tin of pennies he'd accumulated over the years, he noticed something odd about one 1984 coin. At first, it was the nose. Then the lips. Then the chin. Something about Lincoln's profile looked off, almost as if there were a shadowy second image hovering just beneath the surface. Unsure of what he was seeing, Harold reached for his magnifier. Under magnification, the error came into focus. The coin showed clear signs of doubling, particularly on Lincoln's ear, his jawline, and the lower part of his face. This was not the kind of machine doubling commonly dismissed by collectors. This was strong, well-defined, and undeniably mechanical. A classic case of a double die. And it had occurred during the master hubbing process, embedding the error deep into the die used for striking. The realization hit Harold slowly. This wasn't just a minor minting flaw. This was a double die obverse, a true and significant variety. He consulted his old numismatic guides, which made no mention of such a variety from 1984. Could he be the first to identify it? Or had others simply failed to notice? With his hands trembling slightly, he sent the coin for third-party grading and waited, the days stretching into weeks. When the coin returned, the label confirmed his suspicion: 1984 1C double die obverse, FS 101. The FS designation referred to the authoritative 5S Stanton classification system for coin varieties. Harold's heart raced. This wasn't just an error, it was an official and highly collectible variety. What had begun as an idle afternoon of sorting through old change had transformed into a moment of discovery. News of the 1984 double die spread quickly among numismatists. Collectors began checking their own stashes, magnifying every Lincoln cent from that year in the hopes of finding the same doubling. It became a modern-day treasure hunt. Some found faint examples, others misidentified damage or machine doubling, but true double die obverse specimens remained rare. Most were already in circulation, worn by decades of handling, their diagnostic features fading with each passing transaction, but Harold's coin was different. It had somehow escaped circulation entirely, its surfaces still bright and its features sharp. It quickly became the centerpiece of his collection, and inquiries from dealers and fellow collectors came almost immediately. But Harold, driven by pride and fascination more than profit, refused to sell. He stored it in a hard case, displayed it at local coin shows, and shared the story of its discovery with anyone who showed interest. The error itself remained a mystery to many. Experts suggested that during the die-making process, the master hub shifted slightly between impressions, creating a doubled image that transferred to working dies. Only a small number of these dies made it into production before the mistake was caught. And of the coins struck with these flawed dies, only a few survived in mint state condition. The overwhelming majority were handled, tossed into jars, spent at convenience stores, and slowly degraded over the years. Yet as more collectors became aware of the error, demand for pristine examples intensified. Auction houses began offering the coin as a marquee item, often setting bidding floors far above the face value. A lightly circulated specimen sold for $12,000. Another, with sharper details, commanded nearly $30,000. Then came the shocker: a brilliant, red, gem-quality example was placed on the block, and after a tense round of bids, it hammered for just over $55,000. The collector world took notice. What made the 1984 double die so compelling wasn't just its rarity. It was the subtlety of the error, the fact that it existed in a year otherwise considered routine. The coin's ordinary appearance masked a hidden layer of complexity, an invisible signature that only revealed itself to those willing to look closely. The error transformed a coin meant for pocket change into a historical artifact that in the years that followed, the coin's value continued to climb. Condition remained paramount. A coin with full mint luster, no spots, and clear doubling on Lincoln's ear and jawline could command staggering sums. The demand for certified examples outpaced supply, and counterfeits began to appear, forcing collectors to rely on reputable grading services and careful research. Harold's coin eventually passed on to his grandson, who took up the mantle of collecting with the same quiet enthusiasm. It remained in the family, not as a financial asset, but as a story, one of curiosity, discovery, and the surprising depth hidden within everyday objects. That a simple penny could conceal such rarity and command such reverence reminded him that even the most common things in life can hold extraordinary value. Today, the 1984 double-die Lincoln cent stands as one of the most intriguing errors of the modern coinage era. It is not an accident of haste or negligence, but a subtle whisper from the mint's machinery, a flaw born of precision gone just slightly astray. Collectors continue to seek it with the same mix of hope and patience that Harold felt that rainy afternoon, knowing that somewhere, another treasure may yet be waiting to be found. The coin's value now ranges between $48,000 and $116,000 depending on condition, provenance, and timing. And while prices may fluctuate, the story of the 1984 1-cent double-die penny remains unshakable, etched in copper, carried by chance, and forever elevated by the eyes of those who dared to look a little closer. The year 2002 arrived with a mix of hope and uncertainty in the United States. The echoes of September 11 still lingered in the national consciousness, and the country was shifting gears, balancing fear with resilience. In the realm of daily life, routine remained important. People carried on with jobs, errands, and purchases, rarely giving thought to the coins exchanged in store aisles or vending machines. Among them, the 1-cent penny, long the smallest unit of American currency, continued to circulate in massive numbers. And while few looked twice at these copper-plated zinc coins, the truth was that not all were created equal. One in particular, struck that year, carried a silent flaw, a hidden anomaly that would take years to reveal itself, and when it did, would astonish even seasoned collectors. Minted in Philadelphia and Denver in staggering quantities, the 2002 Lincoln cent was supposed to be routine. The obverse, still bearing Victor David Brenner's enduring portrait of Abraham Lincoln, and the reverse, depicting the stately Lincoln Memorial, hadn't changed in decades. The coins were intended to be flawless, products of modern machinery and computerized minting protocols. Yet somewhere in the automated perfection of this system, something went wrong. The error began, as many do, with a die, one of the hardened metal tools used to stamp the coin's design onto blank planchets. If the die becomes damaged, misaligned, or improperly treated, the result can be unpredictable. In this case, the flaw was both subtle and baffling. Some 2002 pennies began surfacing with ghost-like distortions, doubled features on Lincoln's profile, warped inscriptions, or oddly deformed letters. At first, these anomalies were dismissed by most as damage, perhaps caused by circulation or poor storage. But as more collectors began to spot similarities, a question emerged: could this be a genuine mint error? That question found its way into the hands of Greor, a reclusive but detail-obsessed collector based in Ohio. Greor had an eye for anomalies and spent much of his retirement inspecting coin rolls purchased from banks. One evening, while sifting through a batch of 2002 pennies, he noticed something strange about one of them. Lincoln's bow tie seemed thickened, almost doubled. His lips had an unnatural curve. The letters "In God We Trust" appeared shadowed, as if echoing themselves. To the casual observer, the coin might have seemed unremarkable, but Greor felt a thrill. This was different. He ran the coin under a microscope and confirmed his suspicion. The doubling was not mechanical. It was not the common shelf-like doubling from die fatigue or post-mint damage. This was a true double die, a rare type of error that occurs during the hubbing process when design elements are imprinted more than once, but slightly offset. The doubling on Lincoln's profile and certain inscriptions revealed a die flaw embedded from the earliest stage of production. The coin had not been damaged after leaving the mint, it had been born flawed. Greor sent the penny for authentication and waited in anxious silence. When it returned, the verdict was clear. The grading service labeled it 2002 1C double die obverse, discovery piece. That last part, discovery piece, was electrifying. It meant his coin was the first officially recognized example of its kind. In a hobby that spanned generations and countless collectors, Greor had found something no one else had confirmed before. News spread rapidly. Numismatic forums buzzed with speculation, and collectors began re-examining their 2002 pennies. A handful of additional examples surfaced, but they were few and far between. Most had been circulated, their details worn and muddled. Greor's example, by contrast, was immaculate, bright red, uncirculated, with razor-sharp detail and unmistakable doubling. As interest surged, so too did the coin's perceived value. Auction houses began circling. At first, conservative appraisals placed the coin in the five-figure range, but interest drove the price higher. One collector offered $32,000 privately, which Greor declined. Then came the official sale, an auction in Chicago where coin experts, investors, and curious bidders all turned their eyes to the piece. After a series of tense and escalating bids, the gavel finally fell, $67,500. The crowd murmured in appreciation. The 2002 double die penny had arrived, but the story didn't end there. More discoveries continued, including a few oddities with an entirely different anomaly, off-center strikes, coins with one side missing details entirely, and even a few struck on foreign planchets. These rarer varieties confused even experienced collectors. Could it be that 2002 had more than one error variety? And if so, what had gone so wrong that year at the mint? Experts speculated that a transitional issue between die preparation equipment might have introduced inconsistencies. Some suggested that worn dies were not replaced in time, while others blamed insufficient quality control during high-volume production. Whatever the cause, the effect was undeniable. A wave of errors, some minor, some dramatic, but all unexpected from a modern minting operation. The 2002 penny had become the quiet center of an unexpected storm. What made the coin so fascinating was how ordinary it looked on the surface. No one would suspect a six-figure mistake hiding in a handful of change. It embodied the paradox of numismatics, the idea that rarity and value aren't always about precious metals or ancient history, but about the quirks of process and the moments when human oversight meets mechanical unpredictability. Over time, as more collectors hunted for the 2002 double die and its elusive variants, the market grew more competitive. Pristine examples, especially those verified as from the same die as Greor's original find, drew fierce bidding. One particularly sharp piece sold for over $90,000 in a private sale. Another, just slightly less vivid, was bought by a collector in Florida for $76,000. The numbers stunned the collecting world and sparked new interest in early 21st century coinage, a field once dismissed as too modern to matter. Today, the 2002 double die penny continues to command respect and fascination. It is a symbol of patience, observation, and the luck of being in the right place at the right time. Collectors still scour rolls and proof sets, hoping to glimpse that unmistakable doubling, the eerie echo of Lincoln's features that changed everything. And while many look, only a few find. As for Greor, he kept a second example that surfaced shortly after his discovery, a reminder of that night when an ordinary roll of pennies delivered an extraordinary surprise. He no longer seeks the spotlight, but his find remains one of the most talked about penny errors in modern U.S. coinage. Today, the 2002 double die Lincoln cent is valued between $40,000 and $102,000 depending on condition, color, and visibility of the error. Its legacy is still unfolding, a testament to the truth that even the smallest coin can carry with it a story worth far more than its face value.